Get down on the floor and give me 20, you filthy maggots, because it's the Large Blast Podcast Imperial Guard episode. I'm your commissar, Stoney, and I'm joined as always by my generals, Matt.
Valor is rewarded with glory.
And Welshie.
First rank fire, second rank fire.
And we like to kick things off with a little something we call Hobbies Goings On, where we take a little look at the hobbies that have been goings on in the hosts' lives. So who wants to kick things off? Matt, you want to take things away first up today?
Yeah, I'll take things away. I've been doing some test models of a Black Templar. I've been struggling to find inspiration to continue painting some Skitarii models that I was working on last episode. And I've started to paint up a character from one of the Blackstone Fortress expansion boxes that we are going to use in our Shadow of Olympus doubles game.
Before we go any further, did you just say that you had a Black Templars model? Is this an old one, or did you succumb to this?
It's an old one. I haven't succumbed.
Oh, okay.
The
sweepstake is still on. Matt's still not
purchased
Black Templars.
No, I'm doing a paint test model.
For all the Black Templars you're going to buy in the future.
No, well, if you remember, I've got the old Grimaldus model that I bought during an episode, and I'm going to convert I've got all of the Space Marines from the 40k starter set, all of those guys that I'm going to do as Black Templars, and the free sergeant that you got when you spent £150. I got that, and I'm going to convert him. Yeah, so free. But he is going to be converted from an Ultramarine into a Black Templar. And I've started doing him, so that's why I'm doing a test paint model. It's an old metal model.
So what have you spent £150 on recently to get this free thing? What have you been loading up on?
Oh, this is quite a long time ago. We had a discussion in the episode before last where I think I said I felt like they were, Games Workshop was doing one on me. I bought some terrain kits. I was going to use some of that for my Sisters of Battle water super heavy cathedral transport thing that I've been building. So I was buying some terrain sets from there, and I bought the Sisters of Battle, the Sisters of Battle codex and the cards and stuff, so that I can start to play with them now. And we got £10 voucher. They gave us a £10 voucher because we subscribed to Warhammer Plus. I say me and Welshie have both got this. So I wanted to spend that because you had to spend it in October. So that was free money, but it wasn't really free money. It was definitely Games Workshop doing one on me.
Definitely them forcing you into buying more Games Workshop stuff.
Lubing you up for a larger ramming.
Yeah, and I thought I'd make the most of doing it then, because if you did it in October, you got this free figure. I was going to buy this as a Battle Codex anyway. It was inevitable. Yeah, and that's why I haven't spent any money this month, and I'm not going to spend any next month, and that's why I haven't gone down the road of buying the Black Templars. I'm fed up. I'm fed up of feeling like Games Workshop are doing one on me.
Okay, well, Welshie, what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I think last time we chatted, if you listened to the last small blast, I said I was going to quickly finish off my Black Templars Redemptor Dreadnought, and then it's just going to be me and the Emperor's Champion all day, which wasn't a euphemism. But what really happened was I got to halfway through Saturday on the weekend just gone, and I looked at my Redemptor Dreadnought and I thought what that really needs is some more chains and some candles. So I haven't made very much progress on the Emperor's Champion at all. I've painted his black sword, but I spent most of my weekend building candles from scratch to put on the shoulders of my Redemptor Dreadnought. So Excellent. That's what I spent most of my weekend doing. Nice.
And what? You just did, like, what was it? A little bit of tube, a little bit of biro inside, something like that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty. I kind of watched a couple of YouTube videos and melded a couple together. So I got some plasti tube in different diameters and cut that to the right height, and then literally just got some wire to make the wick and stuck that inside the tube so the wick's popping out the top, cool. And then just used PVA glue. So I just let PVA glue go almost set, so quite thick, and filled the tube around the wick with the PVA so it kind of sunk in, and then just spread the PVA glue like around the tops like it was the wax, and it just seemed to dry at the right kind of rate to make it look like the wax dripping down the side of the candle. So I was quite happy with it in the end.
Nice little conversion.
Yeah, something I hadn't made from scratch before, and it pretty simple. Well worth doing if you want to cover your army in candles.
Well, as you know, Welshie, I've been up to, in terms of Warhammer, I've been playing you yesterday.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
right,
I was saving that news for you.
I'm back. I'm ready to go. I've picked the worst army in the game, and I don't know how to play. But if any of you Brighton bitches want to bring it, then Stoney's back and he's ready to rumble. I might be rolling all ones, all the rest. No, not of course not. No, terribly.
Did you have fun though, Stoney? Did you? Feel like the game was in a good position here in ninth?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I say, it's first time in a while, so it was definitely a bit of an eye opener playing your Space Marines, because it was like you would hand me a lot of dice and I would roll a lot of dice and do very, very little damage.
So we should say you were playing Gene Stealer cults, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I was on the Gene Stealer cults.
As we all know, is easily in the bottom 3 factions at the moment. And I gave you 1,000 points. I wanted you to have a little taste of a little bit of everything so we could teach you the game. So it wasn't the best list. And I bought a kind of toned down version of my 1,000-point list, but still my 5 Vanguard vets just ripped through the Gene Stealer cults like they were soft butter, and I felt bad. I didn't charge on purpose. The chaplain did nothing all game, and it really, to me, opened my eyes to just how underpowered the Gene Stealer cults are at the moment.
It's true. But
did you use any strats? Use any strats? Strats in the next time. Next time.
No, I think it was just to get back into it.
I gave you 2, didn't I? I let you do the perfect ambush, so you can deep strike and move.
Yeah,
and you did the one where everybody can throw a grenade. I think at one point.
Was that one? Yeah. Well, I did something. They did not sway the game in my favour. Let's just put it that way. But I did them. I did them.
To be fair, you did charge in with the aberrant hypermorph, which is 6 attacks hitting on 3s, and I think you rolled 4 2s on your first attack, and that should have wiped out an entire squad.
I'm very out of practice at rolling dice as well, it turns out. So I was rolling a hell of a lot of 1s.
Yeah, that would have killed the squad of 5 Space Marines dead if they'd hit. So you were a bit unlucky at points as well, but it was glad to have you back in the game.
Exactly. And they say that half the battle is in your mind. So if any of you young'uns out there are ready to get dominated on the field by my Gene Stealer cult army, as long as Welsh you'll let me borrow it, then I'm ready.
It's the news.
Wow.
It's the chuffing news.
Have you heard? 6s are now 4s.
It's the news.
Gene Stealer limo's back.
News.
So Halloween is gone and Christmas is just round the corner. Why not get yourself a piece of shit stuffed squig from Games Workshop, or a goblin riding a squig if you actually want a real model? The choice is yours, because we've got 2 special Christmas models come out from Games Workshop. One of them is a stuffed cuddly toy, which looks like an utter piece of shit. And the other one is an actual model of a goblin riding on a squig, which, although well sculpted, serves no purpose in my opinion. What do you guys think of these?
I agree with you on the plushie. It's an utter piece of shit. It's why would anyone want it? I don't get it. The red gobbo is a tradition though. The model that they've kind of done now. So it's like he's come out for a few years now. It's a comedy model. I can kind of accept that. They're a model company. It's a silly model. I wouldn't want one personally, but the plushie,
I guess that this is it's just an extra thing you get for someone at Christmas or something. It's a silly present. What do you get the guy that's got every piece of Warhammer ever? You get him a Christmas squig, I guess.
Yeah, it's just the model's fine. If I had an orc army, I'd bring it every now and then and be like, this guy's mental. He thinks it's always Christmas. And just give him some weapons, whatever.
No. I'm the opposite. I disagree. The gobbo thing, when I saw the video, I just thought, what the fucking point of that? All of these weird gobbo things they always do. I don't get it. It just seems like a waste of effort. Why don't you bring out a really cool model?
Did they not used to? Was it not the white dwarf that used to come out every Christmas?
Not at Christmas. They do him occasionally, yeah. But I'm a fan of the plushie toys. I think they're fucking excellent. I think I take away all the man dolls, just make these. I think it's fucking brilliant.
I'm still waiting for you to tell us the truth on this. Every time we see one of these plushies, you go,
like,
you keep a completely straight face.
I think
you genuinely like them.
I think it's an excellent idea. This is the kind of shit I want to see Games Workshop doing. Not like dolls that don't do anything. This squig would be excellent. I'd have like
I can't listen to you.
I'd have Cleo the cat fighting it. I think it's wicked. It's wicked.
It looks like so badly
the
made.
Nurgling is sold out everywhere. Like you can't buy it. I can't buy one anywhere. I've been trying to buy it.
Oh, what a shame.
I think I love them. You know, you take the gobbo away. I don't want that.
Matt's teddy bear collection is growing.
Yeah.
Blimey. I think the model's cool though, to be honest. Like, well, it's not cool. It's sad and cheesy, and it's just a money grabbing thing. But it's cool sculpt. It is a cool sculpt. It's clever in the way that it's done. I think
there's nothing wrong with the sculpt. I guess I'm just sort of a bit like, what's the point? I suppose. I guess it's just to get more money out of people, really, isn't it? But like, yeah, I mean, whatever. Some people might want this. If they want it, you know, there it is. Get on the Games Workshop website and get one of them. And if you are into the plushies, it sounds like get yours fast because Matt is trying to buy them all up. So get in there quick. Okay, so after all the London GT news and the Games Workshop saying that things are balanced and they are fair and releasing their own lists, a bunch of people have just been hit with some nerfs and buffs for no coincidence that we could never possibly say. So if you're an AdMech player, a Drakari player, or a Necrons player, I believe you're going to get a bit nerfed. But there's some buffs coming for Knights and Orcs, Chaos Space Marines, and Chaos Knights.
Well, coincidentally, only a matter of days after the Large Blast podcast team filled in the Games Workshop survey and asked for a quarterly update. That was our consensus, wasn't it? And,
I believe so.
They've announced that yes, they will do a quarterly update, points update.
They're listening.
Oh, really?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
This is the first one. And just a slight correction there, Stoney. The Necrons have actually been big buffed, which we'll talk about in a second. It's the Orcs got a bit of a nerf as well.
Big buff.
AdMech and Drakari, serious nerf. Matt, do you want to talk about the AdMech being as we spent all of Sunday playing games?
Yeah, so we played. We had some test games for the doubles tournament coming up. We had our lists. We spent the whole day, sorted it all out, and then I knew this was going to happen. I wrote down what I needed to remember for my army. I printed some new stuff off, and as I was printing it, I thought, I bet Games Workshop are going to come out and change everything between now and the tournament. And of course they have. So the points for the AdMech have been changed, a reflection of how they've been dominating in competitions.
But GW would tell you they haven't. They were fine, but they've completely rebalanced almost every point in the codex.
So basically, everything has gone up. One thing has gone down. A couple of things have stayed the same. I don't see it though as a massive. Well, for me, I don't see it as a massive nerf. So I'm not really that bothered. I think at the beginning I was worried. Once they start changing rules, that's how your army plays different. But the rules are all the same. The points are more, so obviously you have a little less on the table. To give you an idea, from my 1,000 points list that me and Welshie played last weekend, that same list is now worth 1,110 points, basically.
So it's a 10% increase, though. I mean,
it's a 10% increase.
It's pretty
massive.
Large.
But I don't. The army's going to play the same. The rules are all the same. The tactics are going to be the same. It will help balance the competitive players. To be honest, I did feel a bit cheesed off though, that I never really played a very competitive list. I just kind of played what I like to play, and I kind of feel in a way that players like me get a bit punished by the fact that there's people out there that are spamming all the flyers and spamming all this stuff, and like they got like 30 infiltrators or whatever they're playing, and now I can't. My army is going to be inherently weaker because they're spamming. I mean, I guess that just comes with the, it comes with
I know what you're saying. Though. Like someone's going to bring 3 squads of 10 and then that affects the points cost. Suddenly it's more difficult for you to run a small squad of 5 as a result of that. Yeah.
And the army becomes a little harder to play, and it's because people have been in a way they've been like abusing the codex because they've just been spamming loads of stuff. But obviously it needs to get done because you can't allow them to spam loads of stuff. But I don't see it as like a massive nerf. We'll find out tomorrow when we do some more practice games. Yeah, I don't. But the army isn't going to play any differently. So, and that's what I was relieved about, because as soon as they start changing rules, that's when you kind of got to learn where you are again. But actually, it's the same business as usual.
But these are both the typically. I mean, a couple of these are the sort of high tier armies. Like Takari is very strong, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
I think there's some of the, you know, a lot of the points costs. I did kind of think, well, that seems fair enough. Some of them I thought may have been a bit steep. Like my basic troop, everyone's gone up 1 point. I think they should have just, as we said, well, she just bring in a cap of 10 per unit. I think I would have rather seen that than 1 point extra, because actually that adds up quite a lot. And the Iron Striders, they lost the core keyword about 5 months ago, and now they're 10 points more. So since my book's been written, they're no longer core, they're 10 points more. But yeah, I mean, and the same things happened to the Takari. Basically, a lot of their units have gone up in points. There was one thing that came down, and that's a reflection of them also being fairly dominant.
But this is definitely a balance sheet, right? Because they've just put points hikes on the Admech and Jakari, and some things have got some serious buffs. 2 up saves on a Lehman Russ, excellent.
It's massive.
Guard commander. Objective secured on the small knights, so knights players can actually play the game now, because they basically couldn't hold an objective because, you know, one troop's going to hold the objective. So the biggest buff has gone on to the Necrons, which I'm really excited to play again, because basically when their codex came out, only a few units had the core keyword. So all of the buffs and aura abilities of things just didn't work on most of the army, and it made a lot of units like kind of unplayable. They had their niches, but they weren't great. Whereas now, like, we should be seeing loads of wraiths on the field, flayed ones, destroyers, things that didn't have the buffs now have the buffs. And it just made all of the stuff I painted during lockdown that I basically couldn't use, because the only way to run Necrons was big blobs of warriors, because they were the only things that had core. I now have the ability to use all kinds of stuff, and I'm genuinely really excited to play Necrons
really cool.
again.
It's nice when there's
big.
It's nice when there's something that really opens the army up like that. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, but as Matt was saying, like, immediately there's endless YouTube videos about how to get your 20-man flayed one squad doing like 180 hits.
Yeah, really.
All the rules together.
Stop it.
Just stop
yeah.
it. Just stop
Although,
it, guys.
You said I agree. I mean, that is a massive buff to the Necrons, but I think the biggest thing to come out of this in terms of competitive play is the fact that you can only run 2 aircraft.
Yeah, so that's across the whole game.
The whole game you can only use. Yeah, you can only. So before, people like we spoke about the London GT, where the Admech army in the final had the flyers, like spammed loads of flyers, and they just wiped the guy off in turn 1. But now he can't. Now you cannot do that list. Yeah. So not only would it be more expensive, but now you can't use it. And it kind of reminded me. Can you guys remember in the old days, in the old codexes, next to the data sheets, the unit entries, there used to be like a 01, 02.
Yes,
like
you're right.
The codex. So, and this is starting. Are we gonna go back to this? I kind of hope not, because
it was it got a bit like that towards the end of 7th, where you had to take detachments, and you had to take a certain number of things in order to make the detachment work properly and all of that. So that kind of restricted what you could take in some ways. Yeah,
and I mean that, like I was saying about how you kind of feel annoyed by the competitive players taking all the soup and just kind of ruining.
The reason we can't have nice things is these competitive players.
People on the Imperial Guard group, like, obviously everyone was really happy that the Lehman Russ had a 2-up save. No one can explain why the Baneblade has still got a 3-up save.
Oh yeah, it's still a 3-up Baneblade. Yeah,
but the so the air cavalry, so the drop troops, the air cavalry lists where they've got the scions, the stormtroopers with all the Valkyries.
Yeah,
You can't play that list anymore.
I think they'll get an exemption.
I think they should do. Yeah, I think they should do, because that's where the thematic side of things should come in. Yeah,
but the thematic side on the Lehman Russ is hilarious, because one of the Horus Heresy books I've just been reading, there's like a whole section where they're all shitting themselves because they've been assigned to a Lehman Russ and it falls apart, and they describe them as death traps and the armor's rubbish. So the fact that they've now got a 2-up is hilarious.
Okay, so we feel it's worth mentioning that Warcry has been back at it again, introducing another really strange warband, which is very much what the Warcry does, as we know. We've all expressed our love of the Warcry models on this show before. And there's some new guys come out, all spikes and arms and leapy bastards with masks on and stuff like that. But they look pretty cool. Who are these guys? The Tarantulos?
Yeah,
something like that.
They are.
Spider boys.
Pet spiders. Wow.
They're just cool. Like some of them. We love this Warcry range on the Large Bath podcast, but these guys so dynamic, so many arms, just such a weird style, so inventive, so clever.
It really is.
Fresh.
It's a very creative section of Warhammer, the Warcry warband. So and if you're listening to this show and you're into all the converting stuff we talk about, check these models out, because you might find there's some cool bits on here that you want for something else. And if you're interested in making a fucking tarantula-based army, then this might be one of your, like this and the goblins. Yeah. You might be able to knock up something pretty cool. I knew it. I fucking knew it. The McFarlane playset moves one step closer as Joy Toy bring out their big, what is it, dreadnought type thing for you. You can stick your new action men in.
Is this real?
This is real. This is real.
Actually real? Is this
how big
Joy
is this? Toy. If your Joy Toy isn't girthy enough, get a girthier Joy Toy in the Invicta tactical war suit Joy Toy.
How big is that?
Well, because I looked.
How big are the Joy Toy things?
I thought the Joy Toys were like a foot tall, like 30 centimeters tall. But then when I was reading this, it said that the suit's 30 centimeters big. So the suit's the suit's a foot tall.
The suit's only that. Yeah.
I sort of assumed that the Joy Toy stuff looks a little smaller than the McFarlane ones.
Yeah.
To me, anyway. Okay. But I mean, not that I've got a range or anything secretly, and I play with them. But this is, I mean, you know how I feel about the toys, and this is just moving one step closer to, like I say, the McFarlane playset, and I just, it's not my cup of tea. It comes already painted, these Joy Toy ones, don't they? There's no hobbying in this at all. This is literally just for you to go.
Although you could hobby, think about all of the lovely rust effects and the grime and the weathering and the bullet holes that you could add to this model.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
all the grime if you shove it up your ass.
So if you're a fan of Aeronautica out there, which came out a couple of years ago and is basically the flying planes around shooting each other game that Warhammer bought out, then you can enjoy 2 new Necrons, which have not been seen in the game up until now. So we've got a guy that looks a bit like a bulldog clip, and then a guy that looks like the Death Crescent, and and basically they're still supporting this game, and now you can play as Necrons in it as well.
Yeah, I thought it was cool when I saw this. I mean, being a Necron player, I've not played Aeronautical Imperialis, and I said when it came out I would only start playing if they brought out like tiny Tyranid flyers, and I thought it would never happen. I thought they'd just keep it Space Marines, maybe Eldar, maybe Imperial Guard, and the fact that they've made a couple of Necron ships for the game, I actually think it's quite cool. It kind of shows they're going to branch into the various factions.
Is the Bulldog clip one? Is that a miniature version of a Forge World kit?
Yeah, that's the Night Shroud. So the two.
Oh, it is cool.
The Doom Scythe, or the Doom Quasson, as it's colloquially known, and then the Night Shroud, which is a Forge World model if you want to play it in real 40k.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'd never even heard of this game until now, so it's kind of I'm glad they are supporting it, because it was something I've never heard of.
Thunderhawk gunship.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
plastic
so.
Thunderhawk.
It's cool. It actually looks quite fun to play, and like I say, if they bring out the full range of ships, I'd be interested in buying a few and having a go at it. Yeah, I enjoy X-Wing, the Star Wars game, dare I say it, and this looks kind of similar, kind of aerospace fighting. So yeah, cool that they're branching out and doing a little bit of everything.
So last week in Gibraltar, SM Battle Reports, who I don't know anything about, but they hosted an event on a ship in Gibraltar where 30 of like the most famous YouTubers who do battle reports were invited. They had a tournament to raise money for men's mental health. And the last I checked, yesterday maybe, they'd raised 15 grand.
Wow.
And there was a winner. So it was a tournament, a couple of 3-day tournament in this boat in Gibraltar. So people from all over Canada, America, UK, Spain, France.
15 grand probably just about covers the cost of sending 30 YouTubers on a ship for 3 days.
I think they have to pay for that themselves.
You'd hope so, but I'm sure they did. But that is nice.
It looked. I saw a video today. It looked more like it was a permanent like hotel docked in the port rather than a boat that they rented. So it was like a hotel on a boat, but they had all the tables set up in like what would have been the ballroom, I guess, and it looked quite good, yeah. And
but I think that's
the ballroom can't be cheap. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. These guys should be doing this in someone's fucking shed. This money should be getting out there to these poor mental men. What's going on?
But maybe next year we'll be invited.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they've done
especially
this before,
now we've said such nice things about it, Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair play.
Rolling in my 6-4.
Left, right, turnabout, salute Matt, because I think he's got a quiz about the Imperial Guard, don't you, Matt?
Yeah, of sorts. Well, as you know, guys, I've been in the Guard for almost 2 decades, but now you're both going to be a soldier in the Imperial Guard. You stand with billions of others in the greatest army that has ever existed, bathed by the brilliant light of the Golden Throne. If we're going to be discussing tactics today, then you need to prove you know your stuff. And I have here my copy of the Infantryman's Handbook. Literally, listeners, have a copy of the book here.
He's waving it at the camera as we speak.
It's well thumbed. It's a useful guide for being a grunt in the Guard. And I'm going to ask you a few questions based on the advice that this book gives us. And I'll just see how your answer. It's not competitive. It's just a quick,
bloody well is.
Answers.
I can tell you that.
It's kind of a mixture of lore, but also stupid stuff that's in the book. So do you know where any good Imperial Guard officer references for tactical advice? What do they read? Do you know what they look at?
Yeah,
if they look at anything.
The Imperial Guard Infantryman's Handbook.
Apart from that.
Oh, okay. They'd go to their commissar and they'd say, "Commissar, I'm sure you're not going to punish me for asking this silly question, but I need some general advice."
I'm pretty sure the book would advise that if any officer asked their commissar for advice, then they deserve a bullet in the head.
Right.
But,
damn.
No,
that's me out.
They would refer to what is known as the Tactica Imperium, which is the most widespread battle manual employed across the galaxy. There's a living document, like a Google Doc, that's updated with different volumes all the time, and it's where the Guard learn. They add stuff to this living document, and it's so big that if you were to read it, it would take an entire lifetime to read. But it's like a who's who of tactics.
It seems like like you say, you sit down as a young, fresh-faced guardsman to read this book, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to be an Imperial Guards guy, and then you close it aged 110,
Yeah.
like
And
now
then you're dead.
finally, arthritis-ridden, hunched-backed, ready to hit the battlefield. It doesn't seem like the best way to do it, but hey ho.
No, who then supplies the greatest army in the galaxy?
Oh well, I think I know this one. It's the Munitorum.
Yeah, the Departmentum Munitorum. Do you remember this, Stoney, from our Administratum episode? You should remember this. It's the most mightiest organization in the galaxy, and without its Herculean labors, the galaxy would soon fall to anarchy. So it's part of the.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. So obviously, no force the size of the Guard could exist without strict discipline. So I've got 4 examples from the book of what punishments need to be given for these particular crimes. So I'll say what the crime is, and you can decide between yourselves what the punishment is. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is using Departamento Militarum weapons or equipment to commit suicide. What's the punishment?
No burial or just left, cast aside.
Yeah.
Turned into like a servo skull or something like that.
Oh,
On a,
like
you know,
that.
Or maybe a servitor. That would be a.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be.
But the book says any soldier who employs the sacred battle gear of the Departamento Militarum to commit or attempt to commit suicide will be shot, have his name stricken from the regiment roll of honor, his ashes vaporized, and his next of kin invoiced for the cost of his expended kit. I don't know how
That's
they managed
brilliant.
to do that in the galaxy.
Brilliant.
But
Yeah. It's all on
Yeah.
record somewhere.
yeah, they'll find it in a few thousand years. So the next crime is failing to use Departamento Militarum weapons to discomfort the enemy. So this is you've not shot them enough. I don't know how they.
Maybe you're out
Publish
like
that.
shooting bottles or something. You're just wasting ammo. Is that potentially what it means? I reckon you'll be shot by your commissar for that. That's for sure.
I think you've got to be shot. If you ain't shooting enough, then this person that has been shooting is going to shoot you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a commissar would do that, but if a commissar wasn't there, the book says any soldier who fails to utilize his weapons or equipment in its primary purpose of discomforting the enemy, either through misuse or personal use, will be stripped of that weapon and sent into battle without it, then found guilty of failing to carry a weapon at all times. So you get put into the battle without your weapon and shoved off.
It's kind of, the wording's a bit strange, to discomfort the enemy. It makes it sound
It
like you're
is.
going into war with a bunch of vuvuzelas or something, just pissing them off, you know?
Yeah.
That's basically
that's
what a
basically what a las gun is.
Yeah, I suppose so. Just a 40k
Yeah.
vuvuzela,
You
yeah.
experienced that last night with your brood blood brothers.
It's true.
Oh yeah.
Discomforted my space marines.
So the third crime, use of anti-contaminants in the production of illicit alcohol. What is the punishment for that?
So you're brewing up some alcohol. This is like when med students drink the alcohol hand gel. That's basically what this is. Okay.
This sounds like your classic kind of, you know, like those rugby club type dickheads that go out and do these drinking games and stuff. So I think what happens is you just get pantsed in the pub and a pint poured on your head for being a big pussy and putting non-contaminants in your drink.
I'm going to go injected with like pure ethanol and sent into battle.
No, it's worse, much worse than that. Any soldier caught utilizing his anti-contaminant tablets in the production of illicit alcohol from engine fuel or kerosene blocks shall be forced to drink the entirety of the liqueur produced. If he survives, he will be shot. So that's
Brilliant. Excellent.
Amazing.
yeah.
Excellent.
And
Because if you're not using contaminants in it, it might be like the first bit is like kind of like, all right, well, I've actually made something that's not contaminated. I don't really mind drinking this, but then I'm going to get shot.
yeah. So the final crime is so what is the punishment if you dispute a decision of the Departamento Militarum?
I'm going to go with, it seems to be a common theme, but I'm going to go with you will be shot. At some point in this punishment, you will be shot.
Sony?
I mean, there's definitely going to be some shooting involved. I think you're going to get both your legs shot off and then made to run a marathon and then shot.
Well, there's no marathon involved, but you do definitely get shot. So regardless of the rank of the officer, you will be shot. So I think what that means is even if you're a general and you dispute the decision of the Departamento Militarum, you're going to get shot. Don't dispute a decision by the Departamento Militarum.
That's weirdly less bad than than brewing your own alcohol. The punishment for that, weirdly, is just straight up
at least
shot.
force them to eat the paper the orders are written on or something, and then shoot them. I mean, outrageous.
It's quite good. There's many crimes in this book, and mostly it ends with being shot. The next question is, what does the book recommend officers do not do before a battle? So it's advising what you should not do before a battle. Any ideas? That's a pretty good one. Stony?
Get fucking shot because you disobeyed an order.
Yeah, I mean that's a good answer. But it suggests in here that you should not order the men to dig graves before the battle, and you shouldn't let them stockpile all the body bags before. It's just weird. There's like a whole page on examples of where that's been done and the results that ended in, and it didn't end well.
It isn't great
Morale.
for morale, is it? No.
No. Who
They're just fitting you
is-
for your body bag and
yeah,
before you go out.
Excuse me,
Let
sir.
me measure you.
To the left or to the right for your body
Yeah,
bag?
yeah.
Who is the head of the Imperial Guard?
The head of everything. Oh man, it's above the Lord Castellan, the High Lord Marshal of
I think
the
that's a
Administratum. Is that right?
no, I think that's a good guess, but it's a High Lord of Terror. It's separate to the Administratum. So the Administratum is another High Lord of Terror, but the head of the Imperial Guard is the Lord Commander Militant. And I think
Yes.
I think he's one of the permanent High Lords of Terror. Probably the Administratum guys as well. They probably argue all the time.
Is he in
Name is
charge?
Johnny Guard.
Yeah.
Is he in charge of the Munitorum, or is there a separate High Lord for the
No,
Munitorum?
The Munitorum is part of the Administratum.
And there are Astartes that fall under his command. Are there, or is he only in charge of the guard?
No, I think he's only the guard.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's only the guard. The only good bug is
A dead bug.
Dead bug.
yeah,
of
that's
course,
right. Yeah. And you're so you're both guardsmen now. You've
Hang on, are we on Starship
Oh,
Troopers
nice.
yet, or is that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Infantryman's
you've
Handbook?
but no.
I'm
You're
not sure I
now
want to be a
guardsman.
guardsman. You know, I'm not. Have I just been recruited by accident?
Yeah, you have
Just
been.
like
Yeah,
one of
We
those,
all
Yeah.
have. Are we all now guardsmen?
So what is your most important possession?
gun.
My las gun.
Yeah. Okay. So you are guardsmen. Well
Smashing
done.
it.
In warp transit, what are you required to do on pain of death if a comrade is overpowered by the dark powers?
Shoot him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shoot somebody. Shoot him
Yeah.
and the dark powers. I guess
So-
shoot them all.
So yeah, on pain of death in warp transit, you are on pain of death. You should shoot them. It's called administer the Emperor's justice, but it's very vague, and I kind of read it as it's if you're in warp transit, that's just an excuse to murder someone, isn't it? Because
Oh, I swear, sir. I swear.
Yeah,
he
I swear
under
he
the
was
dark
going
powers.
nuts. I shot him.
This is sort of what I'm saying.
And
It's
they,
like, you've got all these rules that end in shooting people, and if the internet has taught us anything, it's that minor disputes happen over nothing. So you've got all these guys like this, so you might just be, oh, that guy's looking a bit peaky. He's turning, shoot him. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's looking peaky too. How? By the time these guards arrive at the battlefield, it's
There's
not,
no
not
one-
a surprise
maybe-
if they're not all being shot.
Yeah, maybe they think everyone's lost in the warp, but actually the warp's fine. It's just everyone just gets shot on the way there. Okay, so the final little few questions now. We're nearly entering the officer corps. As you'll both well remember, there is a whole page in this book on leeches, and I'm going to quote. There's a few examples on the page. Interestingly, there's more information in this book about leeches than there are about tyranids. Obviously, leeches are more of a threat to mankind. So I'm gonna say a quote, and then a quote of a situation, and you're gonna tell me how we should deal with the situation. Okay.
Okay.
So the book says, blah 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 blah. Some leeches will try to enter an orifice of the body, such as the nostril or the anus. If large numbers enter, the situation can become serious. If this happens, what do you do?
Well, they won't be getting in my anus because it's full of joy toys.
Yeah, I always
Preemptive.
travel plugged.
Right.
Cool. How do you
I guess shoot them. Just
Shoot 'em.
shoot the leeches.
shoot your anus? Up the anus, yeah.
I mean, it should be there. Like shoot if this is your comrade, then shoot him. But no, the book suggests if this happens, gargle neat amazak or pour it into the invaded orifice, as this will cause
Butt chug
yeah.
Amasek. Yeah.
as this will cause the leeches to become intoxicated and lose their grip. So I guess then they'll just fall out.
Man, and then
So-
you've just got to take a fucking dump that's just made of blood and leeches.
Yeah.
Oh, just shoot me now. Shoot me now, Commissar.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
I'd be screaming something about the dark powers at that point, I think.
Yeah.
So the final quote is so as I say, there's a page on leeches, half a page on tyranids. So just ending on the nids, some advice for fighting the tyranids. And the quote is, there is one rule when fighting the tyranids. What is the rule?
Always stand your ground.
It's good advice. Stoney,
Never.
think what makes the tyranids different to all the other races?
Oh, shoot the big ones. Shoot the big
Yes,
ones first.
that's exactly it.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot the big
Shoot
ones
the big
first.
ones. There you go. So you're both now inducted into the guard, and you are field promoted to the officer corps. Congratulations.
Oh,
Do you want to live forever?
I
I'm
think
chock
so.
full of leeches.
yeah. And we're all dead. We're all got to shoot each other.
So we're all about to take a leechy poo together, and we're ready to charge into battle, I presume.
Sounds off like you've got a pair.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We've all become guardsmen, and I think that about wraps it up for the Large Blast podcast. Oh, hang on a minute. The Large Blast podcast danger phone is ringing. I'll just pick it up and see who's on the other end.
Good evening, gentlemen. Lord Castellan Infectus here. Thank you for gathering tonight in the war room. I bring ominous tidings and orders direct from the mouth of the Lord General Militant regarding stirrings in sector E6113 Delta B. It has come to the attention of the High Command that there are cult activities going on in Gigantus Prime, the largest hive city on the Alpha designated planet Tyrannus 6. This planet is a mining area known for harsh climate and harsh conditions. These cults are said to worship some kind of four-armed emperor and work within the shadows. They've frequently been seen scratching their nether regions despite both hands being clearly visible. Your mission this evening is to decide how to best infiltrate and destroy this threat. It is a high priority to the full extent you are able to use any elite Astra Militarum units, and they are all at your disposal. Once you have a plan in place, inform the relevant requisition agents within the Munitorum. Emperor's Speed Generals, Infectus out.
Oh, shit. So just when we thought it was over, our first
Oh,
mission as
man.
guardsmen has
Blimey.
come through. Turns out there's a bunch of lumpy boys, bunch of lumpy miners with a bunch of arms, and they're out there trying to fucking do some Gene Stealer cult shit. So what we going to do? Who we going to send in?
Lumpy
So
boys.
this is the kind of confined to the hive itself, right? So we need some sneaky. We want elite units in there. So what could we use at our disposal with our new knowledge of the Imperial Guard?
Well, I mean, it's just as well. We've all been reading up on some of these Imperial Guard factions that have been going around, because it turns out there is a fuckload of Imperial Guard factions out there. And I'm going to put forward one right now, which I think might do quite well. Have you guys ever heard of the Lugnum sewer rats?
I have
No.
not. Regale
Have
me,
you?
sir.
Oh man, these guys are awesome. These guys are real cool. They come from like a mining world, and unlike like other guardsmen, they're quite cool. They've got this like kind of dour sense of humor about them, and they all wear like bright colors, even though they come from like a shitty sewer world, to try to cheer each other up. So they're quite good-natured guys. And they're pretty fucking cool, and they're known amongst the other Imperial Guards guys as being as strong as either as the Catachans or the Caledonians, is how they're thought of. But they pretty much just only do sewer-based combat and like tight,
That
Cool.
seems good.
tight places, things like that. They're all the whole planet gets recruited. So rich and poor doesn't matter. They all have to do some time in these guys, the sewer rats. And one of the things that they're really they're known for on the planet is like manufacturing these awesome swords just out of steel. They're not like power swords or anything. And every family has a sword. So every one of these guys has like a family sword. And if one of their guys dies, rather than recovering the body, they go back and fetch their sword and give it to the next person in line, kind of
That's
thing.
cool.
Sounds like true military tradition. Yeah, they sound
Well,
pretty
we
good.
definitely want some close quarters, that kind of underhive sewer
Yeah.
land. These guys seem
They
ideal.
are. They're awesome, and they
think,
can spend weeks underground. They're very self-sufficient.
I mean, they sound perfect. Get a couple of regiments of them. I mean, we need to mix it up a bit. We need to utilize various strengths. The strength of the guard is with its different. It's, as you say, Stoney. There's so many different regiments, different world. Well, not even regiments, different worlds where these regiments come from. So utilize that. Let's have a few of those regiments thrown into the mix.
I think so. I think these sewer rat guys might be pretty good. But I mean, there are a couple of Imperial Guard factions that are good at fighting in these like close quarters, these sewers, and there's so many mines. Every world in 40k is a mining world of some kind, isn't it? They've all got some sort of mine. But but these guys, they're good down the mines. If this is a mining world, then I reckon
that's what the Emperor. That's what the Emperor sits. He sits on the golden throne and he says, "That planet, that's mine," and another planet says, "Mine."
I mean, have you guys got any suggestions? Have you read up on any decent regiments that might be able to help us out in there?
Well, I thought go super elite for this kind of thing, kind of small injection spearhead. So I was thinking possibly to clear this hive fleet, the Militarum Tempestus, which I've been also known as the Scions or the Stormtroopers. These are the fellas in blue, and they're pretty well trained. They all come from the Schola Progeniums, which we've talked about before as a kind of.
That's the place between the balls and the arsehole, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they come straight out of there. This is the place
where the commissars come from.
Well, it's where the commissars come from as well. Yeah. So it's the kind of like private school system. It's the Etonian system or the grammar school system of the 40k world. And the way that these guys get selected is pretty mad. So they have to go through. If they end up orphaned, first of all, that's priority number one to get into these super schools. You have to be an orphan and you have to be a badass, and then you have to go through these trials of compliance to end up in the Militarum Tempestus, where you do live fire exercises. So there's no fucking paintball or laser tag for these guys. They're out training with live rounds,
hard sparring.
Live rounds. And if that wasn't enough, they go training with live rounds in labyrinths where they're basically, for all intents and purposes, fucking coked off their heads. They're nuts, and they're pushed to the point where they just kept awake so long they're seeing visions, and they've got live rounds. And to test whether any of them make commissar of the Militarum Tempestus, they gather one and they put his best mate next to them and they ask him to shoot him in the head. That's the final test to be a commissar.
Oh man,
there's going to be a lot of shooting in this episode. This doesn't involve an enemy.
I kind of guess that I'm guessing that if they refuse to shoot them, they shoot both of them anyway. Or something So.
No, okay, well, kind of. If they fail to shoot them, the Militarum Tempestus see them in the Schola Progenium as a particularly good resource, and they then become the victim for a new commissar to shoot in the head. Your failure to shoot your mate in the head and become a commissar is to be the one that gets shot in the head. So that's the kind of commissar route for these guys. So these are true badasses.
I mean, I read a little bit about these guys of my research as well, and they've got the tippity top gear, don't they? Everything they have is they're kind of like the SAS, aren't they? They've got all the best shit. They're like the special forces guy. And you guys might remember back on our shopping channel episode that we did, the med kit thing.
Oh yeah, they
that was from them. Yeah, so it's
Martyr's
the best
field kit or some Martyr's gift. Yeah.
So that's the best thing for like healing people up. But again, because it's specifically for them, has zero pain relief whatsoever. So it just kind of gets you back up and fighting again. But it sounds like that's just another day in the life of these guys.
Exactly. And they don't even have the other cool kit that they've got, which when you play them in the game, they've got as well, which is cool, is they've got better armor, obviously, than a normal
The hot shot las gun.
They have the hot shot las gun. Do you guys know what the difference between a las gun and the hot shot las gun is?
Oh, no.
I mean, not on the top of my head, but probably do. I've known it at some point and I've
Okay.
forgotten about it.
We'll
It's
forgive
super
you.
powered. It's like
We'll
boo,
forgive
boo, boo, in the
So
game, isn't it? Like three
instead of-
shots or something.
Well, that's it. Instead of having the shitty little cartridges that pop in the bottom of your las gun, is why they've all got backpacks.
Oh, they got the backpack.
So their backpack
Yeah,
is
yeah.
basically a massive las gun cartridge. So
Cool.
they can charge to a much higher rate and fire a much more powerful shot. Or they can have the volley gun, hot shot volley gun version where they have a much more rapid fire, but essentially they need to reload less, which is always going to be beneficial. So I thought these guys being the kind of a real kind of special
Yeah.
forces within the Guard would be particularly good for this mission.
Yes.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. I've kind of gone on a kind of slightly different tangential thought process with this, but I'm going to offer up a couple of options to add into the mix. So a couple of options to support the sewer rats and the elite stormtroopers, because this is like it's in a hive city, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. That's what old General Ineffectus told us.
So I think my first thought was people that are good at city fighting, because some of the hive is it's not all necessarily down low, and even if it is in the lower regions of the hive, the ceiling heights are huge. It's basically a city, multi-story city, isn't it? Really, I mean, well, that is what it is. But what I'm saying is, like, it's not all tunnels and gloom. It could be huge ceiling heights and massive factories. So I think people that are good at city fighting will be useful.
Yeah.
So there's obviously I'm a Cadian fanboy, and although Cadia no longer exists, her regiments certainly do, and they're spread all over the galaxy. And I would call on the Cadian 122nd, which is a regiment specifically, a regiment that found itself to be particularly good at city fighting, and they have grey camouflaged uniforms, and I've actually got a small army of them myself, where they're kind of black, grey, kind of modern kind of camouflage, quite cool. So they're experts in city fighting. But did you know that there's actually the Cadian have their own form of stormtroopers? Maybe you came across them when you were reading about them.
No.
So the Cadians have the Kaskern, which, and they had a model range, so they were metal figures when the new plastic Cadians came out. You can't buy them anymore, but they were Cadian versions of stormtroopers, basically. So they had the hotshot las guns, but they had more of like Cadian uniforms, Cadian camouflage, and the name Kaskern comes from the fortresses that were on Cadia were called Khazars, and it's like the native language, well, the native Low Gothic dialect, meaning fortress or something like that. So they're called Kaskern because they are like men fortresses, and on Cadia, like the highest. So Cadia was a fortress world. It was a world where everyone had to serve for a number of years in the planetary defense forces, in the Imperial Guard regiments. The Cadian regiments were all over the galaxy, teaching everyone else how to fight, because Cadia's fought against chaos for 10,000 years. And the Kaskern were held as like the highest honor that you could have if you were a military family, was if one of your family could get into the Kaskern. They were like a super,
so what was their selection
ultra
criteria?
stormtroopers.
What do you have to do to
No
get in?
idea. If I was going anywhere, I'd always want a Cadian regiment with me, because I think they'd be a good backbone. But I'd also want some Armageddon Steel Legion, because they've fought on Armageddon and held hive cities against orcs. Okay, we're not fighting orcs, but we're fighting an enemy that is kind of swarm-like. They use numbers, and I think the Armageddon Steel Legion, although they normally deploy in chimeras and they're kind of a mobile infantry, you still could have a use for that here. So they'd be quite a fast reactionary force to support maybe if the enemy broke through the line. They're so used to fighting in hive cities because that's all they've done. They've protected all the hive cities on Armageddon. But my tangential thought was that I don't actually think we should deploy elite troops in this situation. My suggestion would be we should get as many men as we can and just flood the hive city with men.
Ooh.
And that's the only. And I think if listen back to episode 40 of Law and Order, where we talk about the penal legions. Get a load of penal legions in and just flood the city with them, because then
we'll fodder.
Presumably
we'll
the penal
out.
legions are going in the back door of the hive city.
Yeah.
The penal legions will fall to whatever this cult is instantly. They're not loyal.
No, they won't. No, they won't. Because if the stormtroopers are behind them, it'll be like the Enemy at the Gates film, where we're all behind. We send the penal legions in, and if they come back, we'll shoot them. So set the machine.
Yeah, someone's getting shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Flood this insurrection with millions of men, because this is the Imperial Guard, and the Imperial Guard in this situation can win this war of attrition. Yeah. And the insurrection can't fight a war of attrition in this situation. So flood them with limitless numbers.
Ooh, right.
Well,
and send in the stormtroopers to strategic strikes.
If we're sending in more and more boys, then there's somebody else I'd like to bring up for consideration, which might be again maybe a bit more of a sort of a wild card suggestion. But have you guys heard of the Morden acid dogs?
I have actually. No. These guys are badass. Yeah.
These guys
are
the
Morden Iron Guard, but not the acid dogs.
That Morden acid dogs. These guys are fucking awesome. They come from a gloom world, which is basically which is a world in constant darkness, and basically it's kind of in the dust of a destroyed elder planet. So all the planets in that area are all kind of in the mist of these, like the fragments of destroyed elder planets, and they kind of make there's loads of weird mutations and stuff that happen to the people that live on these worlds. They've got like a really abnormally high level of mutation, and the whole planet is fucked. That it's a mining planet for like acid and chemicals. They're literally digging for like acid and stuff, and like chemicals to be used in like fuel and stuff like that. And it's a really grim existence. So all these different mining companies kind of break up, and it's a bit like a gang world. So each of these kind of people doing the mining like guard their area and infight all the time underground. So it's this really dark existence where you're either a criminal, a miner who's basically fighting people anywhere, or in the Morden acid dogs. And they're just fucking badass. And because they hate mutations, they fucking hate anybody that's mutated, because they've got this like really high level of mutations on their world. So if a baby's born with mutation, it's ritually thrown into a vat of acid just to be destroyed.
That'll help with the mutations.
Yeah, so it's not a fun place to be. But it's also kind of notable for this guy Colonel Bane. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I've never heard of Bane being a kind of acidy monster before. I wonder where they got that.
Well, I know, right? Well, Colonel Bane is their kind of like their main. He's a bit like their Yarick or something. He's their kind of big guy because they found out that there was this big chaos invasion about to happen on the world, and Colonel Bane pushed it back single-handedly with a bunch of Morden acid dogs. They were this war of attrition, and they saw it as everyone that died in there, they were glad, because it was getting weakness out of their force, and it ended in this like huge battle with just like this one squad of Morden acid dogs. And there's this huge chaos storm happening as this Emperor's Children guy called Juhad the Lacerator, who was down causing trouble all over this planet. And this guy, Colonel Bane, pushes him back and kills him in the middle of this like huge chaos storm.
One man against a superhuman space marine.
They're
adapted
fucking
by chaos,
badass,
and he still wins.
And they don't give a shit about nothing. So like a lot of Imperial Guard guys won't use other weapons that aren't like Imperial issue or whatever. But these guys, they'll pick up anything and they'll hit you with a fucking brick or like a chaos weapon or anything. They don't give a shit. As long as it shoots, because they're so disillusioned with their home world that they can't be turned to chaos, is how they see it, because their own world is so shit that like they just want to get out of this. So it's kind of like
brilliant.
Yeah.
So are they like, if they hate mutation, does that make them nearly immune to being convinced to join the four-armed emperor? Because they're like, we hate mutation.
They are gonna, as soon as they see a fella with 3 arms scratching his balls,
they're gonna go nuts.
That guy's dead.
Yeah.
Lumpy boys will be dropped with these
Lumpy
guys.
Boys.
Man, good choice.
Okay, we've got a plan. Let's see what happens.
I think we'd be remiss without mentioning, I think in this scenario, he is the main man in any scenario. The commissar or commissar colonel or colonel commissar that you've got to mention at any point. He could take battle on the open field, but I think he's particularly good at infiltrating and holding hive cities. We can't not mention Gaunt. If we can get on the blower to Gaunt and get the ghosts in here, that's got to help, right?
Yeah, that's a cool story as well. I was reading about that where he formed the ghosts and then the planet was blown up instantly, leaving just one legion of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And half of them hate him for it because they didn't get a chance to fight for their home planet. He just went, "You're joining me now and we're going off on the crusade. I'm saving you rather than letting you fight for your planet because fighting for your planet is a lost cause." And that's why they're the ghosts. But man, I'm like 7 books into that series now and they are all great.
I don't know if...
Is he wasted? Do we not need him? He's too powerful.
The Gaunt's ghosts, the Gaunt's ghosts are skirmish soldiers. You don't send them into a city. You send them into the
do. He sends them into a city loads of times. They're all good.
Hang on. All right. If we're talking about a dude to lead, if we're talking about a leader kind of thing, and we're sending
I thought you were going to say Commissar Yarrick.
Well, if we're sending in the penal legions, then what about the last chances?
Oh, okay. Gav Thorpe, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, Gav Thorpe. Send Gav Thorpe in. Send Gav Thorpe in. Yeah.
Okay. There we are. We've mentioned the last chances and the ghosts now. We can move on.
The 70s.
The 80s. The 90s.
Ooh, we're going back in time. Is that a space squad? It's time we take you back with a blast from the past.
So we all know that the Death Corps of Krieg is a Forge World Imperial Guard kit range. Well, there was actually a smaller guard range known as the Elysian Drop Troops. Have either of you seen these guys before?
Yes, I researched these. Yeah.
Did you research these? Cool.
I did, yeah.
Cool. Well, you can chip in. So, they are basically the complete opposite of the Death Corps of Krieg. They are drop troops, and they are quite an elite force on their own, completely the opposite of War of Attrition. They were initially introduced by Forge World before the Death Corps of Krieg were released in the Imperial Armor Volume 3 book, which we've spoken about before, because that was where the Kroot were introduced as well. So Forge World they were like on to a bit of a streak here because I think they introduced these guys, the Kroot, and then the Death Corps followed them.
They had a hot minute where they were fleshing out the rules like nobody's business, for sure.
And I mean, we never talk about this, but the Death Corps were released with the whole renegade Imperial Guard army from Forge World. Some of the models were amazing. The Chaos Ogrins, yeah. Anyway, it's a small, so it's this very small range. They had like a 10-man unit and some officers. And I don't think I could find all the pictures, but you had all the heavy weapon units, lightweight Sentinel.
But their main thing is their jump pack Marines, right?
Yeah, so they have jump packs. So they are airborne assault infantry regiments from a world called Elysia, and it's like low grav. It's all the kind of usual backstory, but they're quite rare within the Imperial Guard. So they're used by commanders in situations that warrant drop troops. So the example being in Imperial Armor Volume 3, this world that had turned to the Tau Empire. The Elysian drop troops were used in the desert to kind of take control of water processing plants without the Tau knowing ahead of the time. So without the Tau seeing huge dust trails of tanks and Imperial armored troops moving up to take all these water processing plants, the Elysian drop troopers would just drop out of the air. They can deploy from Valkyries high up, or they can abseil from Valkyries.
That's cool.
I think so there was an army list where they had Valkyries, Vulture gunships, which was a Forge World kit. Still is. You can still get that, which is like a gunship. So they're kind of like 21st century modern soldiers. The guns, some of the las guns that they carry certainly look more like modern guns.
when I was reading about these guys, I heard that apparently Elysium is like a super rich planet. It's like full of natural resources and stuff. So they're all fucking loaded basically. So they've got like that's why they've got jump packs and stuff like that. But just because they're kind of like the cutting edge of like modern technology because they're all just super rich.
Well,
these are great. They're great models. Like
they are really cool. Yeah.
Oh, you can't see this if you're listening, but have a look at these
Google
previous
it.
models.
Yeah.
These guys feel absolutely ripe for a unit that should be introduced to 40k. That would be so well done today. They seem sniper heavy, so really fine detailed models and tiny little detailed jetpacks, which just seem, based on what they've done with the Van Saar high tech stuff. High tech Guard would be incredible.
I mean, this is like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, I don't know what's this little buggy called, Matt? Because it's leagues better than the ATV. Whatever this is.
It is. It's called what have I got? The Taurus. It's the Taurus or something. It's almost the same as the new thing that has come out with the Stormtroopers. It's almost the same name. That's called a Taurus.
That's a Taurox. So this could be.
This is a Taurus. Yeah, okay. Taurus. Yeah, I mean the buggy's really cool. Like so I remember you could put different heavy weapons on it. So you had the buggy, and then you had this like flat pack Sentinel that they had. So and that was it. So because they're airborne troops, so they don't have heavy support. They don't have tanks or anything. They rely on gunships and these vehicles. A list, as we said, you wouldn't be able to use in 9th edition modern 40k because you're only allowed 2 aeroplanes. But well, talking of technology as well, Stoney, these guys have night vision goggles. I mean, they're like modern Western troops, basically. I mean, I'm sure like
kind of Battlefront, whatever it's called, or current COD, like COD Afghanistan. I don't know what it's fucking called, but that kind of thing. I'm
sure this definitely hit it hit a need button of many people at the time. Like some people like Guard because they kind of think Guard is like modern, slightly historical, real life armies, and I think this would, for some people, this would hit the sweet spot.
They're really cool. I'm just thinking the drop troops. We talked about the ghosts earlier in the episode. I'm just reading Guns of Tanith, which I think is like the 6th one, but there's this whole bit where they're infiltrating a big city, and it sounds very similar to these guys. They're all like rappelling off of helicopters that have got like 30 seconds to drop them all, and if they don't drop down the ropes and drop into the city, then they're stuffed. And there's a really posh kind of squad that's with them. It sounds a lot like these guys.
Yeah, they're the
not the Blues. The Blues are in some other ones, but these guys, it sounds just like these guys. Yeah.
Have you read my favorite? Have you listened to my favorite one yet? Where they're doing the trench systems, and the war's been going on for like 40 years.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's fucking lovely.
Listen to Gaunt Ghosts. Sorry, we're getting the sidetrack, but really cool. I'd love to see a reboot of these models for sure.
And it would feel like, I mean, the Guard range, they've got lots of troop choices, but it would be like a jump pack Marine Guard unit would be excellent. That would be a really cool thing to see on the battlefield.
I think, you're right. One thing I wanted to say this episode was I feel like another option of what I was going to do for the Blast from the Past was Rough Riders. Yes. When the guards used to have the cavalry. And I've got a unit of the old Valhallan Rough Riders somewhere in a box, but like they obviously they're not in the book anymore. They haven't been in the book for a long time, but I imagined that in the new codex the Rough Riders would be reintroduced as a version of bikers. So we've said a number of times, like every codex is almost the same. You have a chaplain figure, you have a fast unit that can take objectives in 9th edition, and most armies get them when they get a new book. Like Admech got the flying guys, and we got the cowboy dogs. Mm-hmm. So like the Rough Riders could fulfill this, but actually, as you say, Stoney, a jump pack Guard unit would actually be a quite a sweet alternative.
Well, you want both, right? Guard,
both options.
Sky Stalkers and the dogs. It's exactly right for it.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely something like I don't know if this is the same in ninth, because as you know, I've only just started replaying it again. But like a guard always had a problem with getting moved around the field. They just sort of blobbed up, and just tried to hold objectives that way. But so having some fast attack stuff for guard would be is much needed, I think.
I must
So there
say,
we go. There's a prediction.
The look on Stoney's face when he opened the Gene Stealer Cults Codex I gave him yesterday, and he realised he could take Imperial Guard Sentinels, just lit up like a small child.
Why?
I was so happy. I like them. They're cool.
Whip did it zap, the zip dip the wap. This is what I call the zip zap rap.
So welcome back to this, our Large Blast Podcast Guard episode, where we have hopefully crushed a Gene Stealer Cult Rebellion. Oh, wait a minute. You guys, I think the phone's going again. Hold on, let me just, hopefully this will just be congratulations on a job well done and not us getting shot in the head. I'll answer it now.
Bloody great job, gentlemen. You really showed those three-armed wankers who rules the roost in this galaxy. That said, I'm afraid it turns out this was only the beginning. Try not to poo in your own britches. Keep them clean for the next part. Astropaths on the fringe of the sector have reported that a shadow in the warp, a darkness blocking out their foresight, has begun to appear. We have contacted our Inquisition alliances, who have warned that this can only indicate a full approaching Tyranid invasion.
Bruh.
We have contacted the local Adeptus Astarted forces of the Lord Gilliman, but as always, the bastards are off fighting something they claim to be more important than us. So it's down to you. Organize the forces of the Emperor's finest. Whatever you need, it's at your disposal. Prime priority. Bring the Xenos menace to heel. Take the bastards down.
Fuck, so
dirty Xenos.
things have escalated over on this planet we're fucking around on. It's turned into a full-on... The lumpy boys, they were just the beginning. Now we've got the full-on tyranids coming. So we've got to think of something. We've got to find some candidates to fight these bastards.
The mega lumpy boys.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we know about the planet? What did the guy told it? It's a mining planet. The climate's
5
pretty
cities.
variable. It's pretty tough out there, outside on this planet.
I mean, I think we might have to mention, I know that this isn't, they're not best suited to the planet, but the Catachan jungle fighters, I mean, obviously they're good at fighting big monsters and stuff like that. So, hopefully we might get a little unit of them in maybe to take down a few of these guys.
We should put them in. The Elysian drop troopers they can stay at the bar. We'll use the drop ships, the Valkyrie drop ships. We'll put the Kakachans in there, and where we need them, they can repel out of them, and they can cut up some.
I don't think they repel. I think
tyranids.
they just jump, the Catachans. No
Yeah,
shoot,
yeah,
no rope.
yeah.
They just jump.
Yeah.
Okay, so a small kind of Catachan spearhead to drop in where we think the biggest beasts are going to be.
Good for fighting monsters. I mean, everyone knows that Catachan is a very inhospitable place. They say that a lot of the demon and Tyranid invasions that have tried to happen on Catachan don't even make it to the Catachan jungle fighters because they just get killed by beasties in the jungle. So, I mean, if they can fight those beasties, then they can fight these Tyranids, I reckon.
Didn't you once tell us about a towel that eats your face?
The Catachan face eater, yes, I remember it well.
Why don't they? I mean, someone's got to be running an import-export Kakachan business where they're like, if you were in a hive world, if you were a mega millionaire on a hive city, you'd want some protection. You could just flood all the outlying land around the hive city with Kakachan animals, just import them in. And then when this Tyranid invasion come in, you don't have to do anything.
I think you're kind of underestimating the Tyranids if you think, I know the Catachan world is pretty bad, but I think the Tyranids would just eat whatever it is. Yeah. Like the face-eating towel is going to jump on a Gene Stealer, and the Gene Stealer is going to suck it up.
I mean, this is a real problem.
Now.
Yeah, a real problem for us because this is not a war of attrition we can win.
No, this is full power.
We're stuck on the planet.
Destruction. We know, Tyranids, they're going to adapt and evolve. We don't want this to go on forever. We want to nip this in the bud.
So we need a lot of numbers. We need
send in the penal legions.
We've already sent in the penal legions.
Penal
I'm doing
legions.
it. This is the only tactic.
Yeah. The penal legions are too deep. They're too deep in the hive city and not the hive fleet.
Fix
So we
their
need to bring
bayonets.
the big guns to bear. What Tyranids
big
are going to
guns.
arrive with big beasties. What are our big guns? What do we need to make sure we've got a lot of here?
Oh my god. Oh mate, have you seen on the Forge World website? There's a thing called a bombard, which there used to be an epic model, but it's a Lehman Russ, it's a Lehman Russ kit, but the center bit of the Lehman Russ kit's hollowed out, and there's this huge gun. Like one day I'm gonna get one from Forge World. They're fucking great, but it's a huge moving artillery piece that is like the mega Imperial Guard siege weaponry. So if you had loads of them in the hive city firing out at the launch sites, and the Death Strike missile that we've spoken about
Matt,
before.
why don't you take us through? Like, we know we're going to need a lot of armor in this invasion, right? The Lehman Russ comes in so many forms. What are we going to need for various kind of Tyranid beasties? What are we going to need to take for kind of massive squads of fast running Hormagaunts or Gene Stealers charging at us?
Yeah, well, we'll need the I think that's the Lehman Russ Annihilator. That's the thing, and the Punisher. So the Punisher's got the 30-shot in-game Punisher Gatling cannon. You need some of them. I mean, when I say some of them, I
who's
need
through in that, I suppose.
Like 100,000 of them, maybe. But yeah,
put it on
quite
the docket.
rightly. I mean, we'll want that to be led by the famous Cadian Tank Commander Pask, who is a Tom Cruise lookalike in the Imperial Guard Codex, who in the game you fire twice. He has all sorts of rules. So essentially 100,000 Punisher Gatling cannons are gonna do some real harm. But also the Lehman Russ Annihilators, they're the twin autocannon guns. And then I'd have a load of Lehman Russ Demolishers, which are the ones with the Demolisher gun, so short-ranged, extremely explosive shell. So they're going to rip through the squads that manage to break through when the Punisher Gatling cannons have run out of ammunition or they're reloading. So you've got like walls of Lehman Russ doing various different things. But yeah,
so I'm imagining these waves running at us now and just getting it like crazy amounts of lead, just smashing them into the ground out there. Okay.
Can I because there's one thing that every Tyranid hates, and that's fire, right? Everybody knows Tyranids hate fire. So I think that we should introduce a very small unit of miasman red cows. You guys ever heard of these guys?
I know.
Red cows.
Red cows, they're called the miasman red cows. They're a unique unit that who have spent. They're very religious, and they've spent a lot of time developing fuel, the hottest burning fuel in the entire galaxy, which they load up their flamers with.
We need that.
But the only problem is that some regiments will refuse to fight with them because this fuel stinks so bad that people just won't fight with them because they're very good at flaming stuff, but they all stink as shit. So I think that maybe we could have a small elite unit of miasman red cows.
I don't think the fellow regiments would be in quite a position to say, I'm sorry, I can't serve with you. You smell, when there's a whole Tyranid invasion coming down.
You say that, but I definitely found in my research there are snooty Imperial Guard regiments that just straight up won't serve with other ones.
But I think they are fodder for the Tyranids in this instance.
Yeah.
There's no place for snobbery in this instance.
But as kind of a rule of thumb, if you're a Imperial Guard Legion that ends in dragoons, you're probably a snooty bastard.
Yeah, completely agree there.
Yeah.
The dragoons are always bad.
Talking of snobby posh soldiers, whatever. I would want to have in this situation a couple of maybe 10 regiments, 20 regiments of the Mordian Iron Guard, which are you'll be fooled into thinking that they're parade ground soldiers, but actually they are I believe they are well experienced in fighting the tyranids. So they're close ranked lines of las guns with their bayonets on, I reckon, as like a second line of defense when the first line goes, or the first line is doing a fighting retreat. These rank upon ranks of Mordian Iron Guard are going to be in their back, like as you said, first rank, second rank fire. Don't be fooled by their pretty uniforms.
Okay, so
they're sort of known for their for being super loyal, aren't they? That's their whole thing. Is they're the most loyal, unquestioning regiment in the Imperial Guard or something like that.
Yeah.
So we've got like a kind of hail of lead firing at anything small that's running towards us. We've got some of these big demolisher cannons, some battle cannons on the Russes, the big guns parked up in the Hive Fleet for the big beasties and the Tyranid backline. But Tyranids aren't confined to the ground. We've got Hive tyrants coming at us. We've got all of the flying beasties, waves of gargoyles coming through the air, potentially huge bioforms adapting to us. How are we going to take these guys out of the air? What resources are we going to call on to give us the air support we need in these situations?
Well, indirectly, the Mycadian armored regiments will have our Hydra flak tanks. They'll be like endless flak coming up from the Hive City. You're not getting through, and the ones that get through will have the small missile launcher. I can't remember what it's called, but the Imperial Guard. You get it with the Death Strike kit. You can either build a tank with a huge missile on it, or you can build a tank with 4 medium missiles on it, and those missiles will be fired at the things that get through the curtain of flak that we're going to put up above us. Maybe also, I mean, where's the Imperial Navy, for Christ's sake? Are we abandoned? Maybe we're abandoned.
Whilst we were doing this, I was like just on a bit of a tangent. I was really looking for an Imperial Guard regiment that was on sea. Speaking of Imperial Navy, and it just turns out it doesn't exist. Sea warfare just doesn't seem to exist in 40k, which is a bit of a shame. I thought that would be quite cool. But if we've got a lot of flying boys, one of the things that I'm thinking, have you heard of the Tuscan Snowhounds, who are like excellent snipers
from like the Italian Alps?
Yes, well, basically, they're kind of essentially sort of set as that, but like their planet is in like constant whiteout, so they've all got this like obscene eyesight where they can see stuff like through the snow and all this kind of stuff. So I reckon, so they're excellent snipers. So I reckon we might need a little team of them to try to take out some of these flying bastards.
Yeah. Okay. So the colonel that contacted us on the phone earlier was saying that it's particularly variable climate. The conditions are pretty harsh. So in terms of boots on the ground, is there any regiments we know of that are going to be particularly good at surviving the hostile environment that this planet survives? Maybe some of the worst areas, some of the biggest storms or toxic areas that we think might just be able to dig in and hold the ground there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see where you're going with this. I don't know if I would deploy the Death Corps Krieg to this planet.
Why? Because you don't want to lose them. You don't want to lose them to the almighty high. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to be pro guard in this.
Hang on.
Shoot him!
Yeah.
Get your bunks made, get your uniforms on.
If we're talking guard, we've got to talk about the Death Corps Krieg because they're fucking awesome.
I mean, I set you up there, Matt, and you just poo-pooed it and gave me a chance to say how great Tyranids are. So thank you.
Well, the Death Corps Krieg are amazing, and they would be able to deal with the environmental situations because they come from a planet that is worn torn by 500 years of nuclear annihilation. So a bit of storm and natural weather, I don't think would batter them. Plus, they're protected by their protective gear that they wear.
Gas masks.
The gas masks, and even their horses wear gas masks. That's how dedicated they are.
I heard that they don't just wear the gas mask for the protection, but also to keep how young they are from the other guardsmen. Because
I thought they were trying to hide themselves. Like,
well, yeah, they try to hide how young, because most of them are like just teenagers basically, because no one on Krieg lives past like 23. So they just they don't want to look like young whippersnappers. So they keep the masks on even when they're like not in war and stuff.
But the only thing I was worried about when I was kind of thinking about this was, the Death Corps Krieg operate in trenches. That's they fight a war of attrition, and we will not win a war of attrition in this situation, and we can't allow the Death Corps Krieg to start digging their trenches, because the tyranids are going to come in behind us. They're going to come up from the ground. They're going to come in behind us. Actually, we need mobile units that can deal with people behind us.
Maybe we just need to deploy the Death Corps on like one flank that we need to hold. If we need to reposition or something, to just hold for a while, like hold that ground.
Bunker complex.
I would never say no to being helped out by some Death Corps Krieg guys. So I'm not saying no.
I'm just saying don't dig a trench.
Don't rely on them. Yeah, no, fair enough. Leave the spades at home, boys.
Well, I was thinking another legion that are particularly good at working in as a hostile environment is Talon. The guys from Talon, the Talon Raiders, whose planet was virus bombed in the Horus Heresy to nothingness, and the few survivors live underground, kind of like, don't know. I imagine they all just look like the Mos Eisley guys. They're like Tusken Raiders guys. But they just don't get out of their tanks, right? That's their whole deal. If they want to go above ground, it's in a tank, and they can just stay in their tanks, being mobile, doing mobile tank warfare forever. Basically, they seem pretty.
Bring them in. Scenario. I mean, they're hard as nails. If you want to see, so we obviously, we've spoken about the Elysian drop troops, but Google Talon Forge World range if you want to see something cool, because they're on like this like alien elephant. They brought out these Rough Riders. They're amazing models. The Talon Rough Riders are incredible. Forge World and they had some heavy weapon teams as well. The Talon stuff is really cool. They'd rock up completely oblivious to the weather, and they'd smash some shit out the nids.
So we've got where have we got to? We've got some Talon doing mobile tank warfare. We've got the Krieg on a flank holding it still. We've got basically the best tanks of Cadia kind of backing up a line of Russes with crazy Punisher cannons. Further back, a line of Demolisher cannons. We've got some Manticores, some Hydras firing into the sky. Are we missing anything?
Well, what I wanted to suggest was, I know this is a long running theme. Maybe it's quite bland, but I would call on the Cadian shock troopers, okay? Because this is a
Aren't they all dead though, Matthew?
No, they're not.
Okay, I'm sure Abaddon came and didn't he just Stoney? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Abaddon blow Cadia?
Yeah, but there were 10.
He blew it right up. Well, she blew it right up.
Yeah.
There are tens of thousands of Cadian regiments deployed across the galaxy that weren't on Cadia. Like the Tanith first and only.
That's fortunate, isn't it? Cadia,
it is very fortunate for the model range. But the Cadian shock troops. So as I said earlier, there were fortresses on Cadia, where Cadia lasted against chaos for 10,000 years, because the Cadian troops would retreat to the fortresses. They'd allow the chaos forces to land on the planet, and they'd defend the fortresses, and then the fortresses create like interlinking fields of fire, which you could do in this world between the hive cities. So the forces retreat to the hive cities, and the Cadian shock troops are your first line of defense. They have stood against 13 Black Crusades, and I reckon
watch their planet get blown up on the 13th one.
only because he threw a Blackstone fortress at it. It's the only reason it fell, and that's because he lost.
They sound like a bunch of pussies to me, and let's get rid of them. That's not none of them. So, one of the things that I found out, like I hadn't really read up anything about Cadians before we did this episode. I didn't realize that they live on outside the Eye of Terror, and it's given them all like purple eyes.
Oh, I didn't read that. I didn't know that. That's
interesting.
They've got like purple eyes. They're all kind of a bit chaosy. And it's kind of weird, but because they think that it's because they like live just outside of the Eye of Terror. So it's a bit like there used to be this town that I used to go through on my way to school when I was a kid called right, and it had a glue factory in it, and it used to fucking stink. Right? So I kind of imagine them as not being the glue factory, but living near the glue factory. So they just smell of glue.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like the chaos stuff. So they ain't chaos, but they kind of live close to chaos. You know,
Well,
so they've got like.
You're right there, Stoney. Like back in the Horus Heresy, one of the planets Lorgar lands on. He goes like the planet that calls him towards the Eye of Terror is Cadia, and he lands on Cadia, and everyone's speaking the dialect before Logothic, like the dialect of chaos, and worshipping the chaos gods on Cadia. So there is like this deep-seated chaos within Cadia that comes from
one of
being
those,
so close to the Eye of Terror.
Sweep it under the rug type scenarios.
Yeah, I think they died willingly, to be honest. I think they just let it burn. They sat by and they watched their planet burn.
I think we need a few regiments of Cadian shock troopers. They're going to hold the first line of defense.
Well,
with bayonet.
Did you guys ever hear about the Fairburn Vanquishers as well? Have you ever heard about these guys? So they're basically
wonderfully obscure and wonderful.
The Fairbone Banqueters. They just go out eating.
They're called the Faybun.
It all happens in the mess.
Vanquishers.
Faburn
Vanquishers. But basically they Vanquishers. But basically they are a bunch of guys that were trained by Cadians. And now all they really want to do is be Cadian. So they just go around pretending they're like the Stolen Valor guys or something like that. You see, they go around just pretending to be Cadians. So I thought that was quite interesting. So, you know, if we can't get the best, maybe we can get the rest. Let's see what they're up to.
That's something I was going to say as well. That's how GW explain, and it's how they explained the model range 20 years ago by saying that Cadia is like the strongest fortress world in the Imperium. It's the world that creates. There's so much demand for military material from Cadia that the surrounding segmentum is completely influenced. It's like the American military today. Like everything is the same as that because that's the strongest thing. There's so many of them. So although the Cadians are spread across the galaxy, they're training all the other planets, and because they're training them, they're using all the same equipment, and that's how Games Workshop explained the fact that they have one model range, which kind of makes sense. But yeah.
Great. All right, so we see. It sounds like we've got a pretty good plan here to send to requisition.
Man, how are we going to decide what happens? We're going to roll a dice.
I think there's one thing we haven't mentioned. We just need to see whether there's a role for these guys. We haven't mentioned any Ogrins. We haven't mentioned any squats, and we haven't mentioned any Ratlins. We're being very sizist here, gentlemen. Is there a place for any of them?
There's always a place for them.
So these guys, they're abhumans. They're not mutants, are they?
They're goody mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's definitely some cool Ogrin planets out there. Well, have you guys ever heard of the Okran Stone Crushers, who are really cool band of Ogrins? These guys are from they're like super into the Imperial cult. They live on this like planet with like mega high gravity, which is why they all kind of became Hogrid. Yeah. And the planet is basically used as like a penal colony for like people that the Imperium really hates, because they basically go to this prison and they just get crushed to death over a series of years because the gravity is so high. And these guys, the Ogren Stone Crushers, Okran Stone Crushers, just find this hilarious and just kind of walk around looking at all these little men just slowly getting crushed. So they sound quite cool. They might be quite handy.
Yeah, we'll get them. I think they'd add a bit of levity, I think, to the situation.
I love the idea that some administrator somewhere, some admin servitor somewhere is like, we can't afford the expenditure of shooting people anymore, so we have to take them to a planet where they die from gravity to save us the bullets.
Yeah. We are spending a shitload on billets. We're shooting most of our own guys with, so we need to get gravity to do the work.
The idea of these Ogrins that are like shunned, they are like shunned by the Imperium, and they're like, the idea of them being like super loyal, even though they are mutants, and everyone hates them, and they're on this world where they have to supervise people being crushed to death, and they're still like intensely loyal.
So we've got a place for them,
Yeah.
right?
Quite funny.
Ogrins
Oh,
versus
they've got-
Warriors.
oh,
they've
yeah.
got a fight in place here. Even
Yeah,
if they
man.
just stand at the front and hold
they'll-
shields
they'll-
up.
They'll probably be
Send
like
them in to take
super.
the Gene Stealers out.
They'll probably be super agile because they're used to moving through treaty
Yes.
like on their
Yeah,
world kind of thing.
Oh my
Super fast
God.
Ogrins. That'd
Imagine
be
that.
exciting.
Let's get them some flip belts on these bastards.
Oh, man, I was
boy,
just-
no, don't do
I
that.
was
They'll
just-
just be
I was
curled
just
up,
gonna
sucking
say that.
themselves off.
I was just gonna say that. I was imagining them doing like cartwheels into the line
Fucking
of
ninja Ogren.
advancing gaunts. Yeah.
All right, so the
Oh my
Ogrins are
God.
in. What about the Ratlings?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they could help the sky as well, because you get big things come through the cloud of flak.
Yeah,
They could take some pot shots. And look, we got to remember the tactical advice is to shoot the big ones, and snipers can help that.
yeah.
They don't have petrol caps, but they've got eyes and they've got brains. So, and the big ones have got big brains. So it's big target.
I've
Take
got to
them
be
out.
honest, though. I don't think the Tyranid invasion is a place for a squat regiment. I think they're not going to be out of there fast enough.
The squats have got a bit of a history with Tyranids, don't they? Isn't that what wiped them out in the lore anyway?
They were destroyed by the Nids.
So
I
maybe
think, in the
we should
original
give them the
Old
chance
School.
to get a little bit of
Bit of
revenge.
redemption.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what are we going to do with them then? How are we going to utilize the squats most effectively?
Put them right up the front to get.
I was just gonna say, just put them right in there.
You
Yeah.
can just imagine the commissar at the front. Now's your chance for redemption, boys.
Yeah.
Off you go. Forward.
We'll be back
advance.
here in the tank. Let us know how it goes.
What's the rule? It's move, squats.
Yeah.
You can
Move,
they're
move.
running forwards and getting nowhere as the Ogrins are like bounding 3 steps past. All right, so everyone's in.
We need some hellhounds. We need
Okay, yeah, that's the
thousands
fun.
of hellhound
I think
tanks and
we've
flamers.
got the hellhounds probably backing up the red cows
Yeah.
or whatever those fellas were called.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got a pretty good battle fan there, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to submit that to the Munitorum. Yeah.
Sounds
See what they
like
say.
it. Like Colonel in Effectus, it's Stony here from the Large Blast podcast. You ain't gonna like it. but-
Sir.
Matt, will you shut up? Things have gone tits up here. The lumpy boys have fucked it. The squats have been eaten. The fucking ninja Ogren jumped straight into the mouth of a Carnifex. We're fucked, bud. What should we do?
You must hold. I told you, gather the Emperor's finest. I expected you to bloody hold. I expected you to hold, god damn it. I've been on to blower to the Adeptus Astartes. They'll be there in 1 month. Can you hold for 1 month?
Well, we've still got the miasma red cows. They're pretty stinky, but all right, we'll see what we can do. Stony out. I've just got off the blower with Colonel in Adeptus, guys. So it turns out that in classic Imperial Guard style, we are fucked. But I did want to just give a few honourable mentions to a few of these other crazy Imperial Guard regiments that we didn't get to use, because there's some fucking nuts ones out there. And I really think that there's some cool converting opportunities if you did want to make like some of these cool Imperial Guard armies. So for instance, do you know Lucifer Blacks?
Yeah, the Lucifer Blacks are in
Oh,
a lot of
nuts.
the books.
Yeah.
They're in Eisenhorn quite a lot.
Yeah. They're really cool. They're sort of like guard the they're like bodyguards, act as like bodyguards and the second line of defense in the Imperial Palace, which are pretty cool. And then they've who's the guys, the Valkyrie, the guys with the Russian hats. What have
Yeah,
they
the
got?
Valhallans.
The Valhalla.
The Valhallan Stormtroopers.
Valhallans.
The snappiest dressed guardsmen in the fucking universe. They're so cool. I
Yeah.
think like, yeah.
And the
very cool.
Praetorians as well, if we're talking old
Oh
ones
my
with
God.
cool hats,
Have we-
and the pith
did we-
helmets. I think we've
did we ever
mentioned them
do-
on the large
we did a-
blast. Or blast
we did a
from Arse or
Small
something.
yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean, they are.
quality hat off between the Praetorians and the Valhallans for sure.
Yeah, there is a number of really cool conversion opportunities out there. Yeah, I mean, because at some stage they basically just kind of like ripped off every army from around the world and then kind of like made them into like an Imperial Guard unit. So they just kind of throw in some random one. Like there's the Draconian Fen Guard, which are just racist Scottish people that are drunk all the time, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
And they're good at like fighting on swamp worlds, is what they're used for. Yeah,
I was gonna say something about the Vestroyan, and they had the Games Workshop metal range. They were like a mix of the bare-skinned, hatted Russian, slightly city fighters. I mean, that model range came out of nowhere. I remember that was like 2007. They had a city fight book, The Restroyans are interesting. They were on Last Chance to Buy again, not a while ago.
It's sad, and we've said it, like they need new range, but there is, lore-wise, there's so much conversion opportunity. You can make so many cool guard regiments based on the lore that exists that, like, you can moan all we like about there being no new kits, but if you're inventive with it, you can do so much with the guard.
Oh man, there's pages and pages of different regiments there on the wiki and stuff like that, which you can do. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking about this because there are so many and they all dress differently and stuff like that. It would look weird to put them all on the table because, like you say at the beginning, Matt, that people who like Guard are kind of into the sort of military history maybe side of things and a bit more the kind of real life, side of things. So it might look a bit weird to have like, Tuscan Raiders and, Van Halen shock troops and stuff all together. It looks, a bit out because the uniformity is what you'd expect from a modern army kind of thing. So, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some really cool options if you want to get out there and get a little bit creative.
Exactly.
Oh no, I mean the stuff I'm seeing on the Imperial Guard Facebook group all the time with, admittedly, third-party stuff like the stuff that you can get and the conversion kits that you can use with the Games Workshop stuff is amazing. And there's someone on my Instagram who I'm following who is essentially doing a Bretonnian army of Imperial Guard. So he's doing a feudal world Imperial Guard, and like he's just done a Lehman Russ that is like four like carts being driven by horses converted from the Admech dog things, and like the guys are holding the guns on the sponsons, like they're holding the heavy bolters, and then they've got like an old cannon from like the Empire steam tank. And it's just like such just mashing all the Games Workshop range together to make this like this feudal world guard, and the infantry are like old Bretonnian figures smashed with Sisters of Battle, and it's just amazing. It's so limitless because you can just come up with a planet and just be like, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. You don't really need to explain it. You can just do you can do whatever you want. Yes,
definitely.
Amazing.
So, I mean, if I think when people think about Guard, they think about those, the Canadian shock troops. They think about everything looking the same, but there's some really fun conversion opportunities out there.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the Canadian shock troops.
Yeah.
Oh god.
The Caledonian, what are they called?
The Cadian
guys. Cadian shock troops.
The last thing I'd say about the Cadians, though, it's something I wanted to say about the Guard, because when I started, I didn't collect 40k until the plastic Cadians came out, and that was it. That was the point when I went from Warhammer to Cadian. So the 4th edition Imperial Guard Codex holds a special prominence in my hobby history. And I remember reading a White Dwarf, or I don't know, something where someone from Games Workshop, someone high up, one of the games designers, maybe it was Jarvis Johnson or whoever, I don't know, but someone said people collect Imperial Guard because they think it's like a modern army, but actually what they need to realize about the Imperial Guard is that it isn't like a modern army. The Imperial Guard is like, they have modern weaponry that we can appreciate and associate it with, except their tactics and how they fight is more like Napoleonic warfare, where they're banking up in lines of infantry and they're getting absolutely like mown down by the hundreds. And I remember like after I read that, I was like, why I need to lose this associating with them being like, tanks and infantry. It's none of that. It's just like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just from that moment on, I saw the Guard as completely different. So when you see all these crazy Guard regiments that people come up with, like, that is exactly how the Guard should be. Like they are the complete mismatch of everything, and you'll get like half naked troops deployed on some planet that they've never heard of, next to some smart ass stormtroopers that have got night vision goggles, and that's like, it explains how inefficient the Guard are, but also how diverse, and in a way that's kind of a strength, because we've spoken about the sewer rats and all these different regiments that can deal with all the situations. That's kind of a strength as well, because sometimes they get lucky and they get the right people at the right time at the right place. And when they do, they're very effective.
So welcome back, everybody, to maybe the most exciting part of the show, where we let the company dice decide what we're going to talk about for the next section. So, Welshie, have you got the company dice from its locked display case?
Of course, I've put in the combination and I've got it straight out. It's here.
Okay, well, roll the company dice. This is always one of the most exciting parts.
Here we are. It's a 3. Okay, so this week, in honor of a fan who commented recently, Jesse Burnett, we are going to decide on the random topic generator if we were to host a panel show in the 40k universe, who would the host be? So this one's for you, Jesse Burnett, in Georgia.
That's a good.
Who we getting on our panel show?
Good question. Oh, Christ!
Who's going to host it? They've got to be a bit light. We can't have someone really dull and boring.
That's it.
They've got
Can't have the Emperor because he's dead.
A lot of the, I mean, most of these guys are just PTSD'd up to the tits, aren't they? So they're going to be like out here being a great on the old panel show. So we got to think of someone who's got a bit of pizzazz.
Belisarius, cool. He's a bit odd. That's my first. Okay,
he might maybe 10,000 years ago when he had a bit more humanity about him, but now he's just essentially like a voice box. It's no good. We're going to need a person, perhaps, but an orc could be quite funny. An orc could be quite funny on.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Gaz Girl Thrucker.
You know, because out of everybody in the 40k universe, the orcs are the only one really having a good time, because all they really want to do is fight, aren't they? So they're probably going to be the best ones for having a laugh when you put all the guns and knives down and everything.
They are, but I don't think they'd necessarily. They've got to actually get on with they've got to be a bit of rapport with the actual contestants on the game show, right? They can't.
But you can still have that kind of love-hate thing. Like, what if we got like Yarrick on one team and like Gazgal doing on the other, or something like that?
Okay,
and the two team captains.
I'd like that as the two team captains in a kind of traditional Xenos versus Imperium team.
I think
every
that
week
would work.
you've got them together and you're trying. So the host has got to.
You need someone in the middle,
someone in the middle of that.
Yeah, well, those two have a mutual. They hate and love each other, don't they? So they're perfect.
Yeah, I think them. Yeah. You can see it now on those panel shows. I can see it in my head. I can see like the Yarrick, David Mitchell, and the Gazgal, whatever the bloke on Would I Lie she's called. Yeah. Okay. So if we're gonna pick a host, then they need to have the command to be in between these two and stop it just devolving into absolute madness. So it's got to be someone with a lot of power, a lot of control, but also a bit of fun about them. I mean, they're pretty high players, those guys. We're probably going to have to go quite high, maybe into the kind of Primarch level to pick someone that can sort them out.
What about, okay, hear me out here, guys. What about a Jacaro? Because everyone knows they are the cutest. They're the ones that people come for, right? They're the cute, fluffy one. People are like, oh, there's a Jacaro there. You know, the Gazgal and Yarrick, they start going at it. The Jacaro eats a banana, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!"
I'm gonna take the Jacaro though, and I'm gonna run with it, and I'm gonna think kind of Shooting Star style. What if the Jacaro is like the Matt Lucas that they kind of roll out when things start?
Oh, he's like the guy doing the musical sting.
He comes out
on the drums like that. Okay, a Jacaro on an accordion. Oh, please. The ratings will be through the roof.
Okay, so we've got the Jacaro, but we still need someone in control.
Like Eisenhorn or someone, but he's not really very like.
He'd be way too serious.
Yeah, too serious.
Fabius Bile
would be too serious.
Bile.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be like his redemption thing. Like, do you remember when Tony Theakston got caught doing coke? And then he was like, oh, he comes back and starts doing like the TV panel shows again or something. Like, you know, it's like his redemption thing. So it could be Fabius Bile being like, hey, I know I'm wearing another man's skin, but come on, it's Fabius, come on.
Yeah, it's potential. He's up there. I think he might be a good shout, you know. I think he probably can have a bit of a laugh. He's a bit of an old guy. He's seen the world. You know, you're not going to want someone...
I can imagine that he's got the most disgusting laugh as well.
Can we
Right,
beat
well,
Fabius Bile? I don't
think we
think
go
any
with
of the
Bile.
Primarchs can do it. I don't think any of the Primarchs really have got a sense of humour, other than maybe like the Night Haunter. But then you're just getting really dark, aren't you? If Kurz is your panel
Yeah.
show host.
I mean, I know that we've got like enough episodes between this particular episode and the Aquarian Fistula episode for some listeners maybe not to know who Aquarian Fistula is.
Yeah.
But I still reckon maybe Aquarian Fistula, who was our Primarch, which we made up on an episode long ago. You'll find it is called We Discover a Primarch or something.
I've just solved it. I'm sorry.
All
I've
right.
got to jump in here.
Let's hear it.
Could there be any better panel show host sat there chuckling, taking up 3 seats?
Oh, I know what
from
you're
the
going to
great
say.
Unclean one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Papa Nurgle
Let's do
himself
it.
running
Let's
the
do it.
panel show.
Papa Nurgs.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Oh, brilliant.
So now for the final part of the show, the Lords of Law quiz, where I pit Matt and Welshie against each other to find out who is the Lord of Law. And as you guys know, we've been talking a bit about the Imperial Guard today. But I want you guys to help me to create a super soldier, a super Imperial Guard soldier. So we're going to play it a bit like heads, bodies, and legs. You know that game where you draw a head and then you fold it down and you draw a body and you draw the legs. So I want you each to think of the head of the perfect Imperial Guardsman from any one of these legions that we've talked about, a body and some legs. You get me?
Yeah.
Get you, sir.
Okay, Matt. So which one of you wants to go first with the head
I'll
of the best to make the best guardsman? We're
I'll
going to
go
$1
first.
million
Go for it.
man it. We're going to $6 million man this motherfucker. We're going to build the perfect guardsman to finally stop this Tyranid invasion that we've been struggling with.
Okay. So with everything that I said, disregard everything. The perfect head for the Imperial Guardsman is the head of a Death Corps of Kree Guardsman, because he wears a gas mask. He can withhold many different environments, and more importantly, he is the faceless, impersonal number that is the true aspect of the Imperial Guard. Limitless, numberless, faceless. That's what makes a perfect guardsman. Their strength is in numbers. They have no individuality.
I mean, I can't argue with that. The gas mask is iconic. I'm going to have to give you a point there, Matt. That was a good shout.
I was
What
going to
about
say
you, Welshie?
exactly the same for the head if I'd gone first. So well done, Matt. Yeah. Do I get a go at head as well, Stoney? Is
Yeah,
that
you
how
get a
this
go
is
ahead.
working?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go in.
You can have a go at head.
We've talked about sucking dicks a lot this episode. I'm going to go in completely the opposite direction then, and I'm going to say if you want the best head on a guardsman, you want the best brain, I'm going to say you want the head of Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a point as well, Welshie. I think that Gaunt is he's got a good head on his shoulders. It's he gets what needs to be done. So yeah, that's a fine choice. So Matt, what about your body? Who's gonna add the trunk to this brain matter on top here?
Well, I would have to use the stormtroopers. I would, being Cadian, I'll go for the Kaskan stormtroopers. So as good as the Scions, the heavily armored bodies of the super elite Imperial Guardsmen, because they are the cream of the crop.
So they're some Cadian guys, right?
They're the Cadian stormtroopers. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, Welshie, what happened to Cadia?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe didn't Abaddon destroy it?
I think that Abaddon did destroy Cadia. So Matt, no point for you, I'm afraid. Welshie, what do you think? What do you think about a body?
Well, I'd quite like. I think I'm going to go with the Elysian drop troops guys that we talked about, on the premise that the body, I assume, would come attached to a jetpack, or kind of wrapped around the shoulders or attached to the back. So I'm going to go with a jetpack body on Ibram's head.
Yeah, I'll give you a point for that. Jetpack,
Excellent.
that you can't go wrong. Okay, Matt, can you bring it back with the legs? We need some strong, beefy legs on this ultimate trooper.
Do arms and then legs.
Okay. Well, all right then. Well, we'll do arms. Let's do. Okay. So we're gonna. These guys are gonna need some arms. So what do you think? Who's gonna need some? What kind of arms are you going to give your Imperial Guard guy?
Well, they say it's not all to do with the arms. It is more to do with the epaulets on the arms. And the best epaulets in the galaxy are worn by the Mordian Iron Guard, who wear a fantastically beautiful uniform. So I have the shield and the armor of the Cadians, but on my shoulders are the beautiful gold epaulets of the Mordian Iron Guard and my blue uniform underneath.
Yeah, they are pretty snazzy. I mean, you got to love a snappy dressed guy, so I'm going to give you a point for that one. All right, Welshie, we need some arms. Who are you going to arm up on this beast you're creating?
Well, I'm going to say fuck the epaulets, fuck the uniform. I'm going to rip my sleeves off. I'm going to go sleeveless, and I want some bulging biceps. Yeah. Bulging Catachan biceps.
Those Catachans, they do have massive arms. I've got to give you a point as well, Welshie. Here we go. Thank you. Last question is, whose legs are we going to use on this creation, this ultimate soldier? Which regiment has the best legs out there?
I could go first on this one because I've got it nailed, I think. So I've got the head and the brain of Ibram Gaunt. I've got the muscles and the biceps of a Catachan backed up by a kind of Elysian drop troop jetpack. And what better legs to put on that body than those of a Ratling? I want tiny, tiny Ratling legs on my Elysian drop troop Catachan arms. So
you're right.
He can either kind of bound through the desert ET style just on its arms, because I assume they're longer than your legs at this point, or if need be fly. But also the Ratlings, they're known for being pretty sneaky and pretty quick. So if they need to kind of scuttle off into the darkness on their little Ratling legs, that's what they're going for.
Who needs legs when you got a jetpack? Have a point, Welshie.
Thank you.
Matt.
Oh my God.
Can you beat Ratling legs on a jump-packed, muscle-bound, commanded-headed dude?
Very difficult.
Maybe go the other way. Go Ogren legs.
Ogren legs.
Well,
with your tiny, posh, weedy officer arms.
I think I'm going to go passionate here. I'm going to get passionate, okay? Because to me, the sound of warfare is the sound of bagpipes, and the best pair of legs, and I'm sure the best legs in the galaxy, is an entire Imperial Guard regiment with a kilt on and muscly human legs, proper human legs, because the proper guard are human, beautiful black watch kilt with some proper army boots. That will top off the best Imperial Guardsmen. You can't beat a kilt. The galaxy trembles under the power of the kilt.
I mean, yeah, I'll give you a point for kilt. Matt. Here you go. So I think that means that today's winner is Welshie, seeing as he got point for everything. So Welshie, how do you feel being the Lords of Law this week?
I feel like what I need to do is spend my weekend building what I've just described. I don't know how much it's going to cost to get all those pieces, being as most of them are obscure or Forge World, but I
feel like if that beast existed in 40k, he would be shot instantly for being some kind of mutant. But let's see how it goes. Thanks everybody for listening. This has been the Large Worlds podcast. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.